Yo, what is going on, Guardians, and welcome back to another Destiny 2 gameplay video. Hey, in this video, I wanted to drop some tips, sort of the golden rules for winning your 1v1 engagements. See, over the course of the last few days, I've been doing 1v1 streams where I accept challengers from chat and pull them in, and we do a 1v1 with them. And I've had a lot of tough challengers over several hours of 1v1s, including plenty of legend rank players. So far, I've only lost to one guy, and he's a tourney player by the name of Leclerc. I'm not a tourney player. I'm not a competitive player in this game. And he's a really nice guy, but he is scary good at the game. He does sweats and scrims with some of the best players in the game right now. So feel free to check him out. And yes, in this video, I will include some of the footage from the game that I lost to him. The fact of the matter is you will sometimes encounter players who are better than you. And I'm not the best player in this game, and neither are you, I'm guessing. So what do you do when you come toe-to-toe with a player who is more talented than you? We'll cover that as well. You know, I did 2 matches with Leclerc, and the first one was pretty bad on my part. But once I got a feel for how he played, in Game 2, I was able to put up a much better fight. I was able to hang with him almost all the way to the end of the match when he pulled away for the win. And, you know, I had a couple of decent streaks, you know. And he's still far better than I am, but the point is, when you focus up and you start being a little more analytical, you can dramatically improve your own experience, your own performance. And I don't mean a month down the road of constant work. I mean the very next day or even in the middle of a match. So let's dive into these tips, and maybe you can improve your own dueling skills in turn. So first, the most fundamental part of dueling is knowing your character. What's your build, your subclass? How does your subclass work? What's your melee ability? What are the strengths of the weapons you have equipped? What does your exotic do, etc.? You need to play with purpose. Play with purpose. Have a plan. Your loadout should dictate the way that you play the game and the way that you approach your engagements. So play to the strengths of your loadout. It's too easy just to get caught up in the duel and completely overlook the tools that you have in your belt. And in a lot of this gameplay, you'll notice me, for example, switch to a sniper and then swap right back to my hand cannon right before sliding into a duel. And that's because for a lot of these 1v1s, I'm using the Lucky Pants because of the neutral changes that it gives to my primary weapon. So I'm playing with purpose. I'm playing with a plan. So the second fundamental part of dueling is knowing your opponent. And this is where I want to spend most of my time. Sometimes you may have to die 3, 4, 5 times in a row in order to learn the playstyle of your opponent. How do they approach engagements? Do they tend to jump a lot? Do they slide into gunfights, into lanes? Do they like to bait you into pushing? You have to remember that people are creatures of habit, and this can be exploited. In my 1v1s, I've played against all kinds of players. One particularly tough matchup was against a Titan who slid into engagements with a Lord of Wolves and Antaeus wards. And while those things aren't that great generally in 6v6 settings, they're certainly effective when going one-on-one with a player using a hand cannon and no close-range special weapon. So instead of changing my loadout, I made adjustments to the way that I played. I had to make some changes. A lot of times he would tank my sniper shot with the Antaeus wards, and by the time that I swapped to my last word, he was already in my face with a Lord of Wolves. And, you know, at point blank range, there was nothing I could do. So I ended up neglecting my sniper altogether. I holstered it, and I didn't touch it for almost the entirety of the rest of the match. And I used only my equipment and my last word. So what I'd do is I'd get a couple of shots in at range and sort of keep my distance and just try and get a pop here and a pop there. And then I'd push more laterally instead of pushing up, forward in a straight line. I'd play the lateral angles instead for follow-up damage. And I tried to keep his Lord of Wolves outside of its consistently effective range. Some of the most talented players that I played against were very aggressive legend rank hunters who loved to slide into our duels with their hand cannon blazing, right? And I had to make adjustments. And one very, very simple adjustment that I made was starting to pre-fire around sort of waist level at any time I was approaching a duel. And this led to a lot of engagements in my favor because I started the engagement with a headshot. They would slide into the lane and I would start firing preemptively, and a lot of times I would catch them in my volley of bullets before they even saw me, if that makes sense. So another strategy that I used was baiting them into slide, pushing, and leading with a preliminary explosive knife. So same thing, but instead of leading with my primary weapon, especially if I was using my last word, sometimes you don't want to dump ammo preeminently because there's not a lot of ammo in that magazine as it is. So if I would lead with the explosive knife, that way I could have a little bit of a leg up on them going into the fight. Notice this play against one such legend rank player where I tossed the grenade very wide left. And sure enough, he was already sprinting and committing to sliding into the engagement, and he slid into the radius of that grenade. Now, it didn't do a ton of damage, but it certainly shocked him, and it applied a burn status effect, which helped me win the engagement by forcing him to jump away and sacrifice some of his accuracy in doing so. In my duels, I also encountered several Aaron Till users, one of whom had just under 10,000 kills on his Aaron Till. Now, these players proved tricky to take on, but I stuck to the fundamentals of dueling fusion rifles, and I came out on top in every match using either my tempered dynamo, which is a fusion rifle with way less range and impact, but it charges a little faster, or by sticking to my last word sniper combo. And what I did was play close to cover and bait out their shots. You do lots of peek shooting when you're going against fusion rifles, so that they have to guess when to shoot. And also do an ammo bleed strategy where you just dart in and out of cover, take a pot shot here and a pot shot there, and you're basically just trying to get them to commit to vooping until they've used both of the shots that they spawn with. So you're counting shots. Once you know that they're dry, then they're down to just their primary ammo, and I can engage accordingly. If I know that they have a long range primary, then I'd use a grenade to force them to cover and then push in with my last word. But if they had a close range primary, I would just lead the engagement with my sniper rifle, and if I bodied them, I'd move in with the last word to clean up the kill. So the next golden rule of dueling is listen. Use your ears to give you important information. This is how you know where to look. Listen for jumps and slides. If you hear a warlock floof or a hunter double jump, make sure that you're looking in the right places. Your ears can tell you so much vital information. I know people complain a lot about audio cues in this game. This is one of the things they talked about, I think, too much in year one. If you know what to listen for, this game gives you a ton of information via audio cues. Are they charging a grenade? Did they just swap to a hand cannon? Are they reloading? Did they put down a barricade, shade step, riffs? All of these make unique sounds. You have to learn how to recognize the sounds and use the information they give you to help dictate how you're going to approach the fight. Now, sometimes that information tells you to disengage and come from a different angle. And sometimes the second you hear a reload, you know you need to go instantly in order to catch them at the tail end of that animation or punish the atrocious ready speed of primary weapons after reloads. Next tip, I would say that it's important in dueling to never swap weapons or reload your weapon in the open. If you watch the best players in this game, and in fact, in any other shooter, in fact, when I was getting ready for the day this morning, I had Dizzy pulled up, watching him play Apex Legends, and he does this in almost all of his fights. He will break line of sight before reloading his gun, or break line of sight before swapping off of his 301 to a shotty, right? You'll notice that weapon swaps and reloads almost always happen after quickly breaking line of sight when you're watching good players. When the enemy can see you, you should almost never be reloading a weapon or swapping unless you have no other option. If you hit the bottom of your magazine on your primary and the opponent is still advancing though, it's almost always better to swap to your other weapon instead of reloading it. Even if your other weapon is a sniper rifle and you're just going for a Hail Mary close quarter snipe, that is better than trying to get a reload off in the open. So keep that in mind. Let that dictate the way that you play in and out of cover, and you'll notice a lot of that in my gameplay here in this video as well. Alright, lastly, remember that when dueling a good player, tagging someone with a grenade is usually a difficult thing to do, and sometimes committing to a grenade toss is suicide because you're dead before you can get your weapon up to do supplementary damage to the grenade. Now, when playing against talented players, the best way to use a grenade is to use it to force them to move the way you want them to move. So many times in the last few days, I've used my grenade to control their movements, not necessarily to hurt them with it. I'll throw it on one side of cover and then start shooting on the opposite side of cover, or I'll jump in the opposite direction looking down, right? And if they go one way, they get hit by the grenade. If they go the other way, which is most likely, I'm already there firing my primary weapon, and I sort of get to command the battlefield. I get to control their movements, and a lot of times that's where the value of grenade lies, is in its ability to make your opponent do what you want them to do. This is really, really important because you can time it with, for example, if I hear a guy pop, 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 pop with his last word, and I'm like, okay, that sounded like, 5-ish bullets. He's probably got 3 left in the magazine. Chances of him killing me with that are slim, very, very slim. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm instantly gonna throw a grenade because I don't want him to get behind this cover and reload his weapon. So before he can get that reload off, the grenade's at his feet, and he's like, crap, I gotta cancel my reload. I gotta go the other direction. Shade step the opposite way, jump the opposite way, run the opposite way. But the opposite way, that's where I'm going. So I'm ready to cut him off as he's getting away from the grenade and has 3 bullets left in his magazine. So you can really command the battlefield and dictate what they're going to do with your grenade. That's where the value of your grenade really lies. Alright, well, I hope that you found some of this information helpful, and I hope the gameplay was helpful as well. My primary goal is always, first, to help players grow, and secondly, to entertain. Let me add that lately I've been playing both PC and console games on my new ViewSonic Elite gaming monitors, and if you're looking to upgrade, I highly recommend them. Feel free to come by the Twitch channel, drop a sub so that you can get in on these 1v1s for some friendly competition, or just as a way of supporting the channel. Thanks for watching. I hope to catch you in the Crucible.